Welcome back to the Holders Who Know One, a D&D podcast. Greg and I are here with our friend Mike Demko.
Hi.
And we're going to talk about improv in D&D.
Just the basis of D&D, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
Sounds about right. So there's two different really things. This can be broken up in two different sections, either DM improving and then player improving. And I think they're very distinct. They have some similarities.
And there's some interplay between those two as well.
Yeah.
Because DMs can improv with players, and that actually turns out to be like really fun situations sometimes.
Absolutely.
That is very, very true. I know that I wanted to start with this quote that I found, and I found it on a Geek and Sundry article. And it says, improv can only work if you relinquish the idea that it's your story and embrace the fact that it's our story.
Absolutely true.
I love that. That's a great quote.
Yeah.
I completely agree with this because I had a hard time when I first started DMing with, this is my story and this is the railroad I want you to go down and I just want you to act it out for me. And it takes a lot to break that habit to make it more open world and make it more, what do you guys want to do with the world that I provided you?
Yeah.
The very essence. Yeah, it's really difficult to change that kind of a mindset, especially if you're very new at DMing as a whole. Because initially, you're thinking, I'm the god in this world. Whatever I say goes, and I will smite anybody who stands against me type deal. But, D&D being D&D, I mean, it's not about that. It's working with your players to make a cohesive and usually, hopefully, entertaining story.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The one thing I will actually kind of compare it to is I had a very limited experience doing actual improv comedy on a stage type of thing. But there's an important distinction between that and this is basically, well, not even a distinction. It's basically a similarity. Is that you basically are yes-anding your players.
Mm-hmm.
You're basically saying, yes, I'm doing this and whatever you want to do. Like when you're hearing a player say, I want to do this. Yes. And inside my world, you want to do it just this way. Like that sort of thing kind of goes on.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the main posts for improvs from my understanding. I've never done any like actual professional quote unquote improv, but from my understanding, yes and is a very big part of that.
Very much so.
So in that same Geek and Sundry article, they said that Matt Mercer does yes and, but he does it a different way. He says, how do you want to do this? Or
right.
You can certainly try. You can certainly try is his yes and without saying yes and.
Yeah.
And that's fair. Like one of the funniest memes I've seen for D&D was, you fall off a cliff, what do? I flap my arms really hard?
Yeah,
and they're
you
just
can
like,
certainly try.
What? And then he rolls a natural 20, and then DM's just like, the dwarf gets away by flapping his arms really fucking hard.
That's amazing.
Some DMs aren't okay with that, and they are more realistic. They're like, look, that's not possible. I'm sorry. Dwarves can't magically fly.
Yeah.
But it adds some sense of silliness and amusement to the game that I think is needed sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
for sure.
I know that that was one thing I liked in Ashley's game. We played Dragon Heist, and we just finished the game, and it was amazing. But we ended up doing a lot of things that weren't necessarily part of the story, and making friendships with NPCs that weren't necessarily supposed to be people you were supposed to befriend, aka
or hate.
Yeah, aka my character was dating Durlaxle, one of the enemies in the book.
Nice.
Throughout the whole campaign, it was just back and forth. Her sending the little messaging bird to him, and it coming back with just random crap the entire time. It was fun.
Yes.
I had a similar experience with the Curse of Strahd that I ran at a local game store, and one of our characters like willingly went to the Strahd side, but like kept it from the rest of the group. So like he was always like working against the party without us knowing it. And like, you don't do that in a normal, I mean, I guess you can do that in a normal Strahd campaign, but like the way he did it for us was just really like unique and something we hadn't seen before. So it was really fun to watch that kind of unfold.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. There's been a bunch of situations in games that I've run or been a part of where actually both the games that my wife Ashley ran, I ended up being either the final boss or just like a part of the enemy side without the rest of the team really knowing about it, and that was always a lot of fun. I don't know if you remember Glory.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. As he's more well known, Shit God.
Yeah, that's the name I was remembering.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, that whole thing where the entire game I was basically rolling insanity checks anytime I had to do anything, and then at the end of the game it being raised because my old mentor was the Black Spider,
Right.
and basically after we defeated him, Glory lost complete control due to a what do you call it, like a trigger phrase. I can't remember what it was offhand, but basically the trigger phrase happened, and then Glory became the final boss. It was less impressive than I was hoping it would be because I kind of got knocked out pretty quickly, but it was still a lot of fun.
Yeah, oh yeah. I remember you turning on us very often without really like doing it. Like, you would hide or cower somewhere, you would run screaming in the other direction, and it was like, what the hell is he doing?
I'm trying to be constructively helpful in my own way.
I don't think that's what it was.
I mean, it's up for interpretation.
That kind of happened with Lathlas too, and it sucked because it wasn't really intentional, but he became the bad guy, kind of.
Yeah,
Like,
kind of, sort of.
Lathlas wasn't the bad guy, but a simulacrum of Lathlas was.
Yep, I came back after dying, and the group didn't roll a high enough insight check to see what happened and figure it out. So later, while we were in the middle of Xanathar's lair, I believe, he saw an opportunity to potentially wipe the party, so he basically suicide bombed the party with a fireball.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it almost worked.
Was this your Warforged?
No, this was Lathlas. It was my drow wizard from Ashley's Waterdeep campaign.
Gotcha.
He got two of us down. Then the third, Crom rushed in, healed us both, and then got knocked out. And we only got away because we convinced the dwarf that we'll leave. Like, we just want to get out of here. I'm pretty sure if any other DM ran that game other than Ashley, we would have had a TPK at that point.
Yeah, I would think so, for sure. I think, wasn't that also when immediately after that, basically my new character was introduced?
Yes.
Yeah, my Aarakocra rogue. That was super fun.
Nice.
Aarakocras are kind of broken, though, because they could fly at level 1. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but they have things that other people, like, that's the one benefit they have.
Yeah, they don't really get a lot of stat boosts. Like, I mean, humans, for instance, get a +1 to everything because nobody likes playing humans.
Avens are broken. They're from the
MTG, right? One of the MTG ones?
Yes, from the Almaquet Magic the Gathering book. That's a PDF that Wizards put out. Avens have if you go Hawkeyed Aven, you have no disadvantage at long range. So I can have a longbow, 600 feet, no disadvantage, and you get flying.
Yeah, that seems like a bit much.
She's a kick-ass ranger, though.
I can imagine. You guys see that all the way over there, 600 feet away? No.
I tried not to abuse it, but there were times where I'm like, I'm getting killed. I just fly 600 feet up in the air.
Jesus.
And they're like, what are you going to do from there? I'm like, I'm just going to slowly pepper them with arrows. Right? They're like, eventually you'll run out. I have a bag of holding with 200 more to go. We got this.
See, I'm the type of DM that would try to find a way to kind of put a stop to that a little bit. Like, I'd be like, I know this logically doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I would say something like, you can make an attack from up there, from 600 feet up, but at the end of your turn, you're going to have to make a Constitution saving throw, because the air is thinner, and you can't stay up there for an extended period of time.
See, that's a perfect idea of improving.
There you go. I mean, I know I'm well aware, by the way, that 600 feet up, the air is not super thin or anything like that. So,
D&D has no room for science, Greg.
No, of course not.
We will not tolerate your logic here.
Well, I have to re-roll another character. Excuse me.
Physics and math have no part in this.
Tell that to the writers of D&D.
Geometry,
It's
I
all
guess, had
math.
no part of it. I remember I was like, well, technically, if you do the Pythagorean theorem, you can't reach from.
I think we've done that a couple times.
Yeah, actually, I think we mentioned that specifically.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was in oh crap, the first the with Glory. I can't remember what we were fighting. I think it was a spectator or something.
Oh yeah,
and it was like up in the air, and I was trying to throw a dagger at it, and I like literally drew out a triangle on the map, and I was doing the math to figure out if I was close enough or not.
I do remember that. Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, it's just like, no, you can't hit it. It's too far.
Yeah, exactly. Like, no, but look, it says right here, I am clearly 55 feet.
Well, that's one thing with improving is trying to figure out those rules and stuff as you go. And I think that kind of falls into the DM improv, is knowing when to make a choice and when to just look it up. And we discussed rules lawyering before, obviously. But that's kind of part of improv, is just coming up with how it's actually going to work on the fly. Because there's times where questions come up that there is no answer for.
Sure.
Perfect example was, if you shoot an arrow at somebody and an invisible person is in front of them, how do you handle that situation? And we had that happen, and I asked on Twitter, and I got 4 or 5 different responses.
Well, and I think the key with DM improving is the phrase DM's discretion, because you're basically going to be put in situations that there's no book substance about that. There's nothing that says you're supposed to do this when an invisible person is standing in the way. So what do I do? And the DM's discretion is basically your way of saying, I'm going to wing it.
Yep.
And that's basically the way it goes.
For sure. And improving is hard enough, but there are some things that you can do as a DM ahead of time to kind of still have that improv feel while still being a little bit more prepared. And I think I mentioned this in an episode previously about building a table with pre-made scenarios.
Yes.
It doesn't necessarily have to be just monsters, but it could just be pre-made situations that may come up that you've thought about ahead of time, including encounters or maybe people you'll run into, or like a table of rumors that the party can overhear if they're not sure where to go.
One of my favorite examples of that, like a table being set up ahead of time, is in the Adventure Zone, where they go to the what is it, Fantasy Costco?
Yep.
I think is what it was, and they roll the die to see what kind of magic item they get, and it's just like, for this class you have a D20 worth of items that they can get, and they roll, and then they get the item based on the roll. And that was always super interesting and just super entertaining to listen to. I loved it.
I think another fun aspect of DM improv is with the question that I had sent in last week regarding character backstories.
Yeah.
Is that basically DMs have the ability to pull in a particular backstory anytime they want to, and that's really fun to improv because it creates that sort of bond between the DM and the player. You create that extra layer of gaming for that particular player during that session or during that storyline or whatever, and that definitely comes in as part of DM's improv.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you look at Critical Role, for instance, I believe we mentioned this last in one of the last episodes we were talking about. Like, Matt made sure that everybody had a particular person or event in their backstory that he could kind of incorporate into the entire the campaign in its entirety, yeah. Which is something I usually aspire to try to do when I DM a game, because I absolutely adore just pulling in backstory and stuff like that.
Yep.
That's even no spoilers. Like with Critical Role, there are moments. I haven't seen the last episode, but I was spoiled on Twitter. Thanks, Twitter. And I won't say what happened, but there was an event that happened that what everybody in the game was just like, holy shit, no, how is that possible? And like the pure reaction to that is probably like a DM's dream of, haha, I've been holding on to this for like 5 years.
Oh yeah. I have a DM right now. His name is Jason, and he I think you know him actually.
Yep.
You may have worked with him before. But he had this thing where he basically let us create our own backstory in the very first session, where we created the town that we lived in, and we created this like brewery that my parents worked at, and I was part of it, and like all of the other characters were part of like this root family, basically owned by my parents. And we went through the campaign, and we finally got back to the town where we were from. And when we got there, there was a bad guy there waiting for us, ready to kill my mother directly in front of me. And he literally pulled in the backstory just to basically wreck the entire party emotionally. And it was really like, I hated him, but I loved him at the same time. It was so much fun.
There's been a ton of situations like that I've had when one of my DMs, in a game I played with Jason actually, but one of my DMs would use our characters' backstories and our characters' personalities and relationships with characters to utterly destroy us. And we're just like, how could you do this? I love it, but how? Why?
I think that might have been where Jason picked up the technique. It's possible. But yeah.
That is definitely possible. Because there were games where I left just like broken and unsure what was happening. And I'm like, no, she has to survive. How could you do this?
This is D&D, not Game of Thrones.
That was technically Shadowrun.
Oh yeah, fair enough.
Tasha, my wife, was completely destroyed by the whole killing of my parents, like slaughtering my family sort of thing, because she was part of the family too. Like, I mean, not like a blood family, but she was in the town, and she was kind of like adopted by my parents at the time. So it was it was really fun to watch her. I mean, it's like Schadenfreude, I guess is the word for it. It's like watching somebody and them feeling pain, but you feeling joy for them feeling pain. Like, it was weird.
Let me guess her race and class. Tiefling sorcerer.
Not tiefling.
Oh.
Surprisingly, she was a gnome because the entire party was short people to begin with.
Oh, okay. Nice.
It turned out we were two dwarves, a halfling, and a gnome, and we were all like, because when she first started to create the character, she said it tiefling automatically. But once that happened, we're like, okay, we're dwarves, and he's a halfling, and this other person was something else, and I guess we're all going to be like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And she's like, no, we won't do that. No, sorry. I guess I'm going to be a short person too.
I want to do a party full of goblins one day, or kobolds.
Kobolds would be fun.
Just like everybody's a kobold.
I feel like wasn't there a one shot about that on Geek and Sundry at some point, or was that goblins? I can't remember. It was goblins. Never mind.
I don't know if I've seen that one.
Ah, man, I'm trying to remember because I'm pretty sure like it was like Chris Perkins and a bunch of no. Oh wait, no. You know what? Never mind. I am mixing campaigns here. Just ignore me.
We usually do, Greg.
I mean, yeah. Nothing I'm not used to.
I will say that as a player with improv, sometimes it's hard because sometimes you're just kind of stuck like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? I want to do the right thing. I want to make the right choice to go to the right path to get to the end goal. But sometimes there's not necessarily a right choice. And sometimes it's just better to make a choice versus the right one. Or make a choice that your character would make.
Yeah, especially when it comes to making like group decisions, because we've had games where like we spend more than half the time, and we usually only have about 3, maybe 4 hours of playtime during a session, and we spend half of that, if not more, just trying to discuss amongst ourselves about what we should do in a certain situation. And while it is good to be like, this is the correct decision, this will make us the most progress, it's not always, I wouldn't say it's not the best, quote unquote, but it's not always the most fun or entertaining.
And that's good for like a group improv type of situation. But sometimes you'll have like individual improv where you're talking about like taking a spell that's not used for a certain situation before. But it makes sense logically if you can get the DM to go along with it to totally use it in this manner. Like, for example, I think we were looking to clean up some dirt from a particular mound, and Tasha and one of the other magic users in the group said, "Okay, well, if I can use my like druid craft to cause a puff of dust, they can also use prestidigitation to clear off a certain amount of dirt from this particular area." And oh no, that's right. And we were trying to get spores off of a certain flower, and it was like, these things aren't really used that way, and they're cantrips, so like they're kind of not useful. But like in this way, they kind of made sense, and the DM totally allowed it.
That's awesome. I love twisting, or not really twisting, but like, using, like you said, spells and other things that in a certain ways that aren't immediately apparent. Yeah. Like in my wife Ashley, she ran a Monster of the Week campaign for a little bit. And we were given.
I loved that game.
Yeah, sadly, it didn't really go anywhere for some reason. But basically, at the beginning of it, we were all given like a random magic item that we rolled. I think it was on a table or something like that. And I got the Flask of Endless Water, which not a great item by itself. Yeah. In my opinion, it seems more or less useless, especially when you play in campaigns where people don't usually pay much attention to needing water and food and supplies and crap like that.
Sure.
But it became this huge thing where I would use it as a if you've ever played Super Mario Sunshine, Flood, the backpack with the water jets.
Yep.
I basically used it as that, because I was a dwarf, but in order to move around quicker, I would just strap it to my back and say geyser, and it would cause a bunch of water to spray out of it. So I actually kind of used it as like a jetpack type thing.
Nice.
The cancer of endless water.
That's what it was, yes. And then, interestingly enough, the very first enemy we ran into was a fire elemental.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that went down pretty quick. But that was super fun. I'm very sad that that campaign didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, that one was really interesting. I liked that was kind of a improv of itself. We had two separate characters. We had a real world character that used Monster of the Week, and then like a dream state character that used D&D. And Monster of the Week is a pretty interesting system in the sense that if you want it to be semi-realistic, but also like not really, because there's literally ones called monstrosities and things like that. But it was a pretty fun system overall.
Yeah, I liked it, and the way that, like you said, Ashley kind of interpreted it into D&D, where we find information on this creature in the real world, and then we go through dungeons in the dream world, using that information that we gathered and actually meeting up with the other players and exchanging information that way. It was really, really interesting.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Yeah, it's a shame that kind of petered out.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what happened. I might talk to her and see if she might want to try running that again, because I really enjoyed it.
Well, there's one other type of improv that I really enjoy is the improv between players who particularly have chemistry, or like not necessarily just romantic relationship, but also like you talk to a player ahead of time, and you plan out like a relationship between those two, and just out of respect for one of our hosts, I will not do any particular impressions, but Honk and Frank is just
as soon as you started talking about that, I knew that's what you were going to bring up.
It really was improv between the two of us.
No, it was great. We loved that. I mean, we based it off of a character from House Party, but
no one else loved it, but
yeah, well, that's kind of the thing. Like, especially interplay between characters. Like, not everybody has to enjoy what you're doing, as long as you and one other person are having fun with it.
Oh yeah.
As long as it's not annoying and disruptive, then it's fine. It's like, for the most part, there have been characters that I've played with that I'm just like, oh my god, shut up. Like,
Yeah,
please,
I'm sure
for the love of
were-
God, just
were some
stop.
of them.
The biggest one I can remember is Little One.
Oh, sure.
Greg's roommate played a character called Little One, and he wasn't very intelligent, and he would just scream this random nonsense.
Okay.
That
And
was
then-
like a yell thing, and I can't do it. I don't want to do it.
That's fair. It was Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, he did it in that voice, and he's very good at that voice. So it sounded very spot on, but he did kind of get a little out of hand sometimes.
And it was the voice was fine. It was just like the random rah, rah, rah kind of noise thing, and I'm just like, and it was very loud every time. So I'm just like, oh my god, why?
Yeah. No, I was gonna say I can imagine that getting on your nerves.
Speaking of improv in that sense, and Little One, one of the more fun improv scenes that I did in our, I believe it was the Princess of the Apocalypse campaign, with Little One, was he tried to lift a ship out of the ocean, like a whole boat.
What the hell?
I don't remember how it came about. I think he bet with another player or with an NPC that he could do it, and then decided to swim under the ship that was docked in the town they were in and try to lift it out of the water.
Good lord.
Needless to say, he didn't do it.
I have no idea why.
Yeah.
Right?
I did say though that he felt accomplished because there was another boat coming in, and the wake of that boat kind of lifted the one he was trying to lift a little bit. So he thought he did it, but not so much.
We just let him go with believing that it happened.
Right.
Yeah, it was fun.
Nice.
Yeah, that's just one of many improv scenes that have popped up randomly throughout. I mean, obviously the entire thing is improv, but specific scenes that have popped up throughout our campaigns.
Well, I've also noticed that you can improv with the DM if you set it up ahead of time. It's tough to call that improv necessarily.
I was about to say,
but like if you talk to the DM ahead of time, you can improv something about your character that might work for the situation. Like I'm thinking of a specific example where I play a barbarian in one campaign, also with Jason actually, and he basically is a barbarian who is a totem barbarian, but I didn't like the way that my character was playing out a little bit because I think I had chosen the wrong totem. I chose elk instead of bear.
Mhm.
And I talked to him, and I'm like, "Well, would you mind if I necessarily did this? Like, could I potentially switch my totem in some way?" He said, "Well, by the rules, you really can't switch out your totems like that." He said, "But I'm willing to work with you if you do this and if you do this," and it basically creates this extra dimension of the game that basically almost sets you off on your own quest, which I hadn't seen a DM do before, and I thought that was kind of cool. And I've actually ended up with pretty much my own archetype. I'm more of a well, actually, I took on a level of paladin. I have a belief in the god Maliki now, the nature god.
Hey, that's who Roya worships.
yeah, it is.
Nice. Yeah, Grimark is also a worshiper of Maliki. And through Maliki, I was basically able to grasp almost all the totems at the same time, with having limited access to every one of them, which was really cool. I enjoyed the archetype that Jason created. So, but like going in ahead of time allowed me to improv later.
Oh yeah, that's really interesting. I like that. So just to clarify, you are kind of like an amalgamation of the different totems now?
Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah, that's basically the way it worked out. I still get some abilities, some parts of the abilities of each totem, but I don't get them fully for every totem.
Gotcha.
So it wound
Okay.
up being kind of like you pick and choose, but like I wasn't able to pick the DM ones.
I tried to do that once with a race for a game that I was playing, and this was based in Eberron. And in Eberron, there are things called dragon marks. And dragon marks are very focused on a particular race, and they do not intermix. It's very frowned upon for somebody of one house to intermix with another house. Well, I had a character that I made as a backup, and this character was supposed to be that in one of the Cannith houses, there is a rumor that one of the head of Cannith disappeared for a year or so. And when she came back, she was no longer in a relationship that she wasn't supposed to be in. So I told my DM, what if in that year she was pregnant and had a kid with this other house? And I was trying to get a intermix of the two houses to build my own dragon mark that had a little bit of the Daneth house and then a little bit of the Cannith house and combine them. It ended up not happening, but I was really hoping that we could combine those two because I thought that would be a really interesting twist to have something that shouldn't even exist in the world. And my character would have had no knowledge of it because she was given up to another person of House Cannith to raise her, so nobody would know that it was the daughter of the head of the house.
That's cool. I mean, it's a shame that it didn't wind up working out because, like, from a DM standpoint, they see it as as a point to improv from as well, because they can then take those requests that you're asking for and then turn them against you. With my amalgamation totem, I actually didn't have access to any of the animals for a good 5 or 6 sessions. I had to work my way back up to it, so it was kind of a cool little improv point for both of us, and I thought that was actually kind of interesting.
Yeah, I thought that it could have been a very interesting twist because if anybody had found out about her existence, about my character, who she didn't even know was she didn't know who her father was,
Right.
She would have been literally everybody would have been out for her blood because she should not exist. It's kind of like the Romeo and Juliet type situation where if they had a kid, that kid shouldn't exist.
Right.
And it technically didn't make my character stronger. It made her a little bit weaker because she was she would suddenly have more wisdom versus more intelligence, but I was going artificer. So it's it wasn't even a min-max thing. It was purely for flavor.
Yeah.
With DM improving, though, I do like how in my Friday games, my DM is pretty, she makes it seem effortless, and I don't even understand how she does this. But at the end of the session, Friday, she goes, I was not prepared for that at all. And we're like, I had no idea that you weren't because it seemed pretty spot on. But we went a different route than she expected and ended up winning. And she's like, well, I did not see that coming.
Nice. Yep. Sometimes you force a DM into that position, and by completely going against the grain, they have to come up with a situation on the fly, and that's perfect improv. That's exactly what that is.
I love when my players back me into a corner like that. I love being able to thrive in that kind of a situation. Just, oh God, so this happened and I have nothing prepared for this kind of a scenario. So here we go.
Yeah, right.
Well, I think it's funny because Tari for my Friday game is one of the few that I don't really think ahead with, because she's very much a run in and punch it type person. She's a monk. She doesn't think before she acts. She just talks a lot of smack and then has the fists to back it up. Every time.
Well, smack is open palm, to be fair.
Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, improv.
She'll rush in and her first instinct is save people and also to get revenge for people trying to take advantage. And they were trying to figure out what this woman was doing, and they found out that she was hypnotizing them basically and then stealing all their stuff. But people were becoming obsessive with her and they kept wanting to come back for more. And we were trying to do one thing and then the person got away but I stopped everything because my character threw a tomato at her in the middle of her performance. And then she was like all huffy and she's like, I'm leaving and this is ridiculous. I'm never coming back. And she leaves and my character follows her and we see her do the hypnosis thing again. And everybody, like 30 people just freeze. And these guards start walking through the crowd and my character sees that they're stealing stuff. And she's just like, nope. So she sends a message to her player, says, they're stealing stuff. I'm running in. Sorry. And then darts in and punches the guard.
Nice.
And the bad guy in that situation tried to do the charm thing on me, but failed because I'm a Kalishtar, so I have wisdom. I have high wisdom because I'm a monk. I'm a Kalishtar, so I have advantage on wisdom checks. And even if she did succeed, monks, the next turn I could just use an action to get rid of the charm because we're level 9. So I was just like,
oh, like calm mind or whatever.
Pretty much. I'm like, good luck, I got this. And then after we finished, I'm just like, who wants to go fight in the illegal rings now? And they're like, are you not tired yet?
I think one of the most fun improvs that we had as a group, actually, I think all of us were involved, was Ashley's campaign where we were starting to do, I think it was Waterdeep, but the improv that I'm talking about was the Fight Club that we created.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was a really, really fun idea that we created during session 0, and it was immensely enjoyable for you being the champion and like just having a fight club like all together. I think that was a lot of fun.
But who's got the headband?
That was the best part about it.
My goblin barbarian. What was his? Oh, Scrambles was his name, and you called me Eggs.
Scrambles. I call you Eggs.
That's right. Oh man. That was her Princess of the Apocalypse campaign, actually.
That's right. That's right.
I don't remember who I was playing in that game. I have made so many characters.
Yeah, I've kind of gotten a little crazy with making characters here recently.
You were the ever-changing elf.
Oh, the Eldarin elf.
Oh, is that that campaign?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
And I
that was
think
Zenlin? Was that Zenlin?
Yeah,
that sounds right.
Yep. And Keith was the blood hunter.
Yeah, that didn't really last.
Those two characters like nothing.
I think like we had to drop out, unfortunately, because of my situation. And we never got back to that one. But it was just an incredibly fun campaign.
I enjoyed it.
I miss Zenlin now.
Damn it, Mike, bringing up all of these memories.
How dare I?
Yes, how dare you indeed, sir.
Zenlin was a Eldarin elf, and she switched seasons every day.
Yep. And I played a female dwarf in that campaign.
That's right, with a Scottish accent.
Yeah. Oh, did he?
That was your mama bear, wasn't it?
Yeah, she was my mama bear character.
That's right.
That was so much fun.
Oh man. Memories.
Yeah, right.
Actually, now that I think back, I don't know if it was Zenlin because Zenlin was with Keo and Ashley was playing Keo. Zenlin was Curse of Strahd, I think.
Oh, you know what? You're right. You might be right.
I think I made Zenlin because I played a Eldarin elf and I liked it in that game.
Yeah, I remember.
But then the game stopped.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it might not have been Zenlin specifically, but it was definitely an Eladrin, or I'm sorry, an Eldrin elf.
Yeah, it was probably the same exact character. I just revamped it to fit the next game.
Yeah. Those are very interesting. That's an interesting race, to be sure.
Yeah, technically they're supposed to change with the season, but they also change with emotion. And then we added an extra little spice to it where every day I rolled a d4.
Yeah.
And that would determine my emotion for the day.
Yep.
But I did emphasize to make sure that they weren't like useless in any way with one season. They just had different quirks.
Yeah, because it would suck to be like in the middle of a we had to take a long rest in the middle of this dungeon, and then all of a sudden you wake up, you're winter, and you're just like, I don't want to do anything. You guys go do whatever you're doing. I'm just gonna stay here.
Yeah, Winter was slightly depressed, but she never stopped herself from doing things. She's like, I guess I can heal you, but we're just gonna die anyway.
Yeah. Well, okay, there was a random character that we all created, like as a group. What was his name? He was the random guy at the bar that my character had sex with. I don't remember.
Random guy at
Remember
the
this?
bar.
I don't.
It was like Jeff or something like that. It was something ridiculous.
Jeff. Yeah.
Hey.
Was that in my Curse of Strahd campaign?
No. This was my dwarf character.
Oh, okay. Then no, I don't remember. I just remember in Curse of Strahd, Jeff kept coming up.
She had like a sex slave or something like that. It was a guy at the bar. Anyways, go working on. Moving on. Remove all this from the podcast.
We're gonna have to cut that part.
Fix it in post.
To be fair, I will say that if you have adult relationships in D&D, that's bound to frickin' happen.
Yeah.
And some games, like Ashley's, we actually rolled to determine pregnancy and stuff like that.
Oh,
You can go to the extreme. There is a book for 3.5 that is all about that.
Yeah, we went through that in Phandalin as well.
Yep. It has STDs in it and everything, so it's all in there. But
was that the campaign where me and you actually met?
We don't talk about that campaign.
Okay.
But yes. That was awkward as fuck.
Yes, to say the least.
The first time Greg and I met, technically, because it was over the internet, we played, Ashley DM'd, and we played a game that was purely based off that book.
Wait, she was the DM?
Mm-hmm.
I thought she'd never DM'd before Phandalin.
We played like one session.
And then that one session was like a half hour.
Gotcha.
Because it was way too awkward to do anything, really.
Got it.
It's like the first time we, like, literally we're in this tavern, and my character, because it's like an adult-based game, was just like, sure, I'll go do this. And then she's like, roll for STDs, and I had an STD that would kill me in like 24 hours or something. And I'm like, first off, how are they still alive if they have that?
Right.
They're a carrier. They present no symptoms. It's fine.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, hey, nice to meet you, Greg. And then yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting story, though.
Yeah, sure.
We had that.
Well, I remember that the in the family campaign, Tasha specifically went out of her way to try and get pregnant so she could play the child of
God
in the next campaign.
That's right.
So not everybody is comfortable with pregnancies in your games. Please make sure everybody is okay with it before you do it.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah. Always set ground rules ahead of time. I've
actually had people go, why the fuck?
Yeah.
Would you do that? And it's like, it had some realism. Like, I had I forget what world it was. It wasn't 5th edition, but I had a game where my character was a lizard folk of sorts. And she, I guess, she had sex with one of the other players who was a mage, and mage was a race. It wasn't a class in this world. And she got pregnant and had 6 eggs.
Wow.
And we were like, we were enjoying it. So we thought it was great because we planned out like how many of those eggs had what abilities, were any of them magic or not magic, which magic did they have? Was it the mage magic or was it the dragon lizard folk magic? And like 1 of 6 had no magic whatsoever, and the other 5 had some sort of magic, but it was like varying degrees. And we were going to start a new game where each of us played one of the 6 kids.
Nice.
Oh God.
Nice.
But our group was okay with that. But when I've told other people about that, they're like, why?
Right.
They're like, why would you enjoy that? I'm like, because it adds realism to it, and it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not like they had birth control back in medieval times.
Very true.
And just as a side note, I know this episode is about improv, and I'm sure most people are listening to this like, wow, they're just babbling about crap. That's improv, guys. Here we go.
Right? I figured we proved
every situation we mentioned was improv.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Pretty much.
There was one exercise I did find. I know, Greg, you were looking at some. So I don't know
Oh,
if
God.
you had anything that you found was interesting. I found one, and it was a session 0 exercise, and it says have everybody quote walk into a tavern or a bar, and this isn't necessarily part of your intro to your stories, but they walk in and they don't know everybody else, and you have them actually interact with how their reaction when they describe who they see, and you start with don't I know you from somewhere, and then have the player interject how they know them.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
The correct answer in this case is always Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah, so I thought that was an interesting little tidbit. And I think Ryan will be doing something like that, but it's going to be more of a flashback of how you met. So it's the same concept, though. And I thought it was interesting to just like, okay, you have this character, and then you see this dwarf over there, and they describe themselves. And you're like, don't I know you from somewhere? And then the dwarf has to explain, well, yeah, we saw each other in blah, blah, blah. Or, yeah, you're married to my sister. Fucking obviously.
Nice.
That'd be a weird one to throw at it. Like, you married my sister.
Yeah, a little bit. Like, oh, right. How careless of me.
How could I forget that? I was really drunk that day.
Yeah, I before we started recording, I went on the internet and I just typed in like improv exercises just to see what is out there, and I was expecting, I've watched a lot of Whose Line Is It Anyway and stuff like that, so I know a couple of like the base games that they play. So I was expecting maybe a list of 20, 25, maybe 30 different things. No, there is a website called improvencyclopedia.org. And that website has a list of, I think it's somewhere close to like 800 or 900 different improv exercises you can do.
We
Holy shit.
We actually, the improv troupe that I used to be a part of in Tampa, called Witless Improv.
Nice.
Yeah, right. They actually put together a D&D series, strangely enough.
Oh, cool.
They did a production of a D&D series. It was really, really neat because it was a video series basically of each player in real life versus each player playing out their fantasy in D&D. And it was so cool. I'll have to show it to you sometime.
Yeah, I'm definitely down to listen to check that out.
But our improv Bible was very close to that. It was like 700, 800 different exercises, and we would have to go through that like not constantly, but like trying to find out like new games to play and new things to do. And like improv is never there. They never want to do the same thing over and over and over again.
Of course.
And that's kind of part of improv. That was a really fun in my life because it helped keep my brain sharp without being boring, like without like getting into a rote
like a routine type thing.
Yeah, basically getting into a routine that you get bored with, but constantly keeping your mind sharp. And that's one thing that's really enjoyable about improv on the whole. But it definitely applies to D&D because you definitely don't want the same thing to happen over and over again.
Right, you got to mix it up to keep it interesting.
Absolutely.
Honestly, I kind of want to try improv one day, but I am not a great in front of people person.
Understandable.
I mean, you can just do it over Discord like we're doing now.
Yeah,
that's fair. I get kind of like caught up in my own brain, like, oh no, that's a stupid idea when I'm doing improv. And if you're doing improv, you're supposed to like be quick and like on your feet and go. You
can't double think about something. You're like, oh no, just this. I say this, and that's over. Like it's either funny or it's not. And like that's the thing. You'll run into situations where like your joke won't land with people, and that's okay because that's what improv is. Sometimes it works and sometimes it don't.
So the biggest takeaway is just keep practicing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep. The best way to practice improv is just bullshit with your friends.
Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah.
But yeah, if anybody is interested, you can go online, like I said, to improvencyclopedia.org, and they have like I said, a list of like 800, 900 different improv exercises you can do, whether solo or in a group of people. It's a good little learning resource. Or you can just watch Whose Line Is It Anyway. Yeah,
that's a great
your
show.
choice.
Great show.
Indeed.
The biggest thing to that I would say with D&D improv is just be open to other people's ideas, but also don't go to some extreme and make decisions for other people.
Yes.
So if you're improving for yourself, don't say, "Oh, remember that time you killed that guy?" And it's like, "Wait, I did what? No, I didn't."
No, you say, "Remember that time I killed that guy?"
That's fine. Yeah. Remember that time that I murdered like an entire village of people? It's like, wait, I'm sorry, what? No, it was a prank.
You're talking to a guard right now. You realize this.
Oh right. Yeah, no, that's not me on that wanted sign. I gotta go. Somebody called me.
No, this is literally the world's worst icebreaker.
What's one thing about you that I should know? I murdered an entire village. So why are you looking at the wanted sign?
Oh.
What's that over there? Smoke bomb.
No smoke bomb.
No smoke bomb whatsoever. You just say smoke bomb and then slowly back away.
It'd be funny though if you walked up to a guy like, "I looked really good back then," and pointed to the
Oh, wow.
wanted poster.
Man, they really got my good side.
The beard really helps define me now, though.
And
It's like, you're a woman.
Correction, was.
There's a pair of glasses called Goggles of Dwarvenkin, and you have a 20% chance of getting a beard. And our Warforged put him on and got a beard. And he's like, "I'm never taking this off."
How does that work?
They just magically have a 20% chance of growing a beard.
Right, but he's a Warforged.
Yep.
Where does it? What?
Yep.
What? Where?
It just magically appeared, because magic.
My brain. Okay.
It's like when Grog got a beard. He's a Goliath. They don't have hair.
Yeah, but that makes more sense because it's growing out of skin.
the beard was metallic.
Okay, all right. My brain's fine again. Thank you, Mike, for being the voice of reason.
I want to make sure that Greg's brain is okay.
And I appreciate it.
This is what breaks his brain. Metal beards.
I've been failing at my job, unfortunately.
But unless there's anything else, I think that's the episode.
Yeah, I got nothing else.
Nothing here. But one thing I wanted to say, you guys are doing a great job on this podcast. I've been listening to the last couple episodes, and I'm definitely wanting to listen to more. So keep it up.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. And you've been one of the better, if not the best, guests we've had on here. So we will more than likely be asking you back.
I'd be happy to.
So thank you guys for listening to the episode. You can find us on Facebook at Beholder to No One and Twitter at Beholder to No One, where I've been way more active. You can find us at any place podcasts are found, specifically Spotify, Podbean, iTunes, etc. And if you have any future ideas for episodes, please hit me up on Twitter.
Or me on Facebook.
Or Greg on Facebook. I
don't currently have a social media presence, but, I'm around.
And that's all. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.